Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video will be a should you main Warlock in Dragonflight PvP. I want to do a big disclaimer, it is still pre-patch, so we still don't know how it's going to pan out at the end. I think design-wise, everything is already set in stone. So I want to talk about what Warlocks are losing spells-wise, what are they gaining spell-wise, and what kind of designs are they going for Affliction, Demonology, and Destruction Warlock. Now, I am now on my Affliction Warlock, spec for Affliction, did about a bit of a UI changes here and there, so I might make a video in the future. But this series is not talking about is it going to be OP or not, is it going to be S tier or not. This is not the goal of the series. The series is basically to help you guys decide about the mains that you are going to go for Dragonflight, just design wise. If you want to be P power wise, that's a whole other discussion, because at the moment it's difficult to gauge the power levels because soul conduits are still up, legendaries are still up in PvP. How it's called? Covenant abilities are also up, soul binds, everything is still up, so you can actually do a lot of combinations that you should not be able to do that, and a lot of classes are actually busted because of that. So I want to talk about Dragonflight only, so I'm not going to account about soul binds or whatever, because that's not the discussion of the day. So let's talk about Affliction. What do you win, what do you lose? Basically, you do lose your Dark Souls, so you don't have a press on a button and you will do more damage kinds of feelings. But it does mean that your consistent damage and your damage as a whole is feeling a bit better. So you mean whenever you're putting in corruption or a stable affliction, agony, or even just like let's say phantom singularity, you will do more damage, and that's a good feeling, right? So let's talk about the class tree first. What does Warlocks in a whole win compared to like Shadowlands? What do you win? You should win a lot of great stuff. You would lose also a lot of great stuff. So for Affliction Warlock, you do lose Fell Domination if you're going for the meta builds that are going around. Probably level 70, now it's level 60, so you do miss, I think, 6 talent points, if I'm correct. I need to see real quick. So you get 5 more here and 5 more there, so you will have 31 points and 30 points on the spec tree. But that's not a problem. So you will have 5 more points, and generally you will go for the new stuff, because those new stuffs are actually going to be very valuable for you. You can even pick up a Burning Rush that you should not be able to pick up in Shadowlands, because you do need the Dark Pact and such. And now you can actually opt for a Burning Rush. You will also have Demon Skin, Fell Armor, and all the good stuff, like for example Frail Synergy giving you healing based on your soul leash, which is quite insane. You do get Dark Pact as well, but you also get an enhancement on the Dark Pact, so you get for example, you sacrifice a bit less of health, so you will still have more active health whenever you're pressing Dark Pact, or you will have more frequent Dark Pact. So you mean like everyone has a kidney go or whatever go they have. Every time they have a go, you would have normally a Dark Pact to save yourselves. Of course, it will be a 45 seconds, so there is a 15 seconds opening for a rogue to kill you, but that's you and the healer that have to coordinate with that aspect. What do you still have or winning? You do have, of course, still your wall having 40%, but you also have the possibility to reduce that wall to 45 seconds, so you will have more immunities to interrupt silences and pushbacks, but you will lose a bit of wall damage reduction. You still have accurate vitality, so you still have a lot of healing. You also get drain life heals for 30% more while below 50%. I think that was not in Shadowlands as well. You also have Grimoire of Sacrifice, actually working with a lot of talents that you should maybe not have. Like for example, Wrathful Minion gives you increased damage on Grimoire of Sacrifice. Demonic Inspiration gives you increased damage on Grimoire Sacrifice again. Stamina, of course, stays, but you also have Soul Link, which gives you more stamina. And then you have Profane Bargain, which gives you even more stamina. So that's actually very, very nice. The good things you have also in the class tree is you still have Hall of Terror or Mortal Coil Choice, but you can also opt for a lower CD Shadow Fury, or even the Shadow Flame slow that you can actually apply. Good thing is, if you're silenced or interrupted, you can still do Shadow Flame, and that's a very big thing, because Shadow Flame is actually a good ability whenever you get silenced, because you need to go out, so you slow the enemy with a Shadow Flame, and then you just try to run away, and generally you will have enough movement speed to actually go away from targets. But I think it's a very good addition for Affliction, Demonology, and Destruction Warlocks. What do you also gain? You gain Teaching of the Black Harvest if you so desire to play with it. Personally, I don't play with it because I do play with Grimoire of Sacrifice on Affliction and Destruction, so I feel like you don't really need Teachings of Black Harvest. I don't know if Demonology will need that, but there is an option. You will have soul conduits that generally you will never take as an Affliction or a Destruction Warlock, even as a Demonology Warlock, and now you have the possibility to take it, so that's a gain. You gain a new talent that you had in Shadowlands into your new talents, and you have Soul Burn, which gives you a great ability to run away and to survive damage. Like, you can do Soul Burn, Health Stone, and you will have more healing on yourself, plus maximum health, which is super nice for the Dark Pact, so you can combine those two. You can also do a Drain Life with Soul Burn. You can also have Demonic Circle Teleport, so you can rotate those utilities in an arena match, because it's a 6-second CD. So you can, for example, the first CD that they are using, you're using Soulburn Hearthstone with Dark Pact, and then you can do Soulburn Drain Life to get an Absorb Shield, and you can then also do Soulburn Teleport every time you need that, because you will get immune for snares and roots, which is pretty decent in PvP, may I say so. You also have Grim Feast, which is the legendary that you already use in Shadowlands. You get it back, but in a lower form, so it's not as strong, but it is still strong. I feel like it's a deserved nerf, because I don't feel like with the current settings, if they keep the legendary how it is, you're not going to you are going to be too OP, I would say. So that's pretty much the new things you can have on the talent trees. Also, a new thing you can have is Amplify Curse. You can opt that it's a PvP talent, and now it is not, so you will have a lot more space to actually use Amplify Curse, and I feel like it's very strong versus, let's say, mages. If they are not aware, you can do Curse of Weakness with it. They will not crit on combust. You can also slow them even more with Curse of Exhaustion, and not every healer can dispel curses, so that's also very strong. And Curse of Tongues, again, increases casting time by an additional 40%. It can be helpful versus a few classes. Okay, let's talk about Affliction now. What do you gain? What do you lose? You do lose Dark Soul, like I said, but you gain a lot of great spells. Again, talents that you wouldn't probably never use in PvP, or just in general. Nightfall, you would never take it, and now it's easily taken. I think it's a fantastic proc. It procs a lot, and I do take it with Drain Soul, something that you also never take, because you would take Inevitable Demise. But now you can take those three talents at the same time, and Drain Soul being halved when you do Nightfall is actually very nice, because the damage is quite noticeable. Also, it's a great finisher if they are like beneath 20%. You get a Nightfall proc, and you do Drain Soul with all the modifiers that you can have with Withering Bolt, or other modifiers that you can find on the talent tree. You can do really great damage. Is it on the same level as a Necrolord Shadowlands Dark Soul? I don't think so. I tested out. It is not guaranteed crit, so you will obviously do some damage more lethal than others, but I think that's a good balancing. But I think the 100% crit ability that you can have with Necrolord was a bit hard to balance out. Like, you had to nerf damage, for example, and that's not fun. Okay, you also get Absolute Corruption, something that you would maybe not take because you would get Wrath in Agony. Now you can take both. And you can also have the option to do Siphon Life if you have time to press that GCD in PvP, but often than not, you will not have the time for that. You also get one big ability, it's called Soul Swap. It's basically working the same as the Shadow Priest ability. You put all the dots on one target, so you basically can cast all the dots on one target, then soul swap on another, and you can basically already use your rotation to do damage with Malefic Ruptures or whatever keystone you're going for. Grimoire of Sacrifice is also super easy to take, and you can combine it with a lot of legendaries, like for example Sacrilege Dark Strike. I take 1 point out of it because I'm only level 60, but I might take 2 points if I see that it's very useful to have. I think just having 1 point is already good because you want that extended curses active. I feel like that's a very good thing to have, and of course having 1 second every time it hits makes it perma cursed. But yeah, it's always how you decide how to build your characters, right? You do lose Seed of Corruption if you're going for that build, but I don't think you're even using Seed of Corruption in PvP. I at least didn't. I did actually never use that. Maybe in RBGs, but in RBGs you can do a whole other set of talents, and that's why it's also fun to have those loadouts to actually play around. Now let's talk about keystones, because I could talk about like soul tap, having sacrifice 8% of your soul leash to gain a soul shard. I think that's also very fun, so you can actually control your own regeneration of soul shards. I think it's fantastic. You could play around that. You have a lot of great choices to make. You can also take Shadow Embrace. I feel like it's in that build, at least in PvP, I feel like you don't need to put all your eggs into one basket. You can also go for, of course, the keystones here. I feel like the most important spells are on the front, and then you have the enhancement on those keystones, I would say. So for me, Dark Glare is a keystone, although for many classes, keystones are at the end of the tree. For me, it is not. Dark Glare, Haunt, you have also Creeping Death, which is a talent that you would probably not never take because you had Dark Soul, and you have Soul Rot. Soul Rot, which is a Covenant ability coming back. I think it's still very strong in RPGs, but I think in PvP now, in arenas, I would probably not take Soul Rot. Now with the current settings on pre-patch, you do get Soul Rot because of the Covenant, which is really bad. Hopefully they fix that, like make PvP not interact with Covenant abilities. That would be actually very nice to actually test those talents and those specs and classes a bit more throughout, right? So we have Dark Glare. Basically you do gain and you do lose some things. You lose Dark Soul, and you can also lose Creeping Death because maybe you would not take Creeping Death. You gain Haunt because again that's an ability that you would never take if you were Affliction Warlock. You can lose Dark Glare. I think Dark Glare will still be taken in PvP, but you can lose. But you do gain Dark Glare with, let's say, Grim Reach. And Grim Reach is something that does hurt in PvP. I tested out in Solo Shuffle, and the actual damage is actually very nice, especially with Rapid Contagion. I think it's a very good thing to have. You can also go for a faster Dark Glare with Grant Warlock's design. That's also possible. And you can also improve your Soul Rod, but that's all the things that you actually have already in Shadowlands. You do have Soul Eater's Gluttony, which makes your Unstable Affliction deals damage. The cooldown of Soul Rod is reduced by 1 second if you're going for 2 points. So I think it could be very nice in, let's say, RBGs or also in arenas if you feel like there's a lot of pets. Having Soul Rot is something that's also very defensive because you can drain life multiple targets and it heals you up pretty much full. But I prefer to play like for, let's say, Haunt with a bit more damage on Haunt and the healing whenever it returns to you, because it does return after 18 seconds. You do get substantial healing. And Haunted Soul, which gives you 20% increased damage on dots. So I feel in general Dark Soul doesn't exist anymore, but does exist in those keystones by itself, their soul, right? You have Creeping Death, Malefic Affliction, which gives you more damage on Unstable Affliction whenever you're doing Malefic Ruptures. So I think it's also very fun. And you have also a bit more, I would say, more PvE centric talents, but you could maybe try it in RBGs. So if corruption damages targets affected by your unstable affliction, it has a 10% chance per stack of malefic affliction to deal 2k shadow damage to nearby enemies. Is it much? Is it not much? I don't really know. Those things has to be tested. I feel like that's more damage than design, but I'm talking about design. I think PvP in general is made out of your defensives and utilities, and then the damage. If a class or a spec has a lot of utilities or damage, or defensives, it is generally pretty good in PvP, right? The PvP talents, you do gain a few things. You do gain precognition for all casters. I think it's a fantastic PvP talent to have. I don't know if you're going to use it in as an affliction warlock. I think all ranged, at least caster specs are going to use it because it's very strong, because people do miss interrupts, and having a 4-second immunity on control and interrupts effects is quite nice for any casters. You do get Call Observer from Demonology. I don't know if it's going to be used because I never used it in Demonology. And damage is alright, but again, I don't know if it's warranted. And Bounce of Fell, I think it's a great ability to have because it is a fire spell, if I'm not mistaken, and it's already good to actually combine those spells. So that's pretty much it for Affliction Warlocks. So let's talk about right away Demonology Warlock. I'm going to discuss about a few things that are new to this spec, because again, we talk about the class tree. The class tree we already talked about in the first section of the video. Now let's talk about Demonology. I prefer to combine all the specs into one video because, again, I want to have the information as easily watched for my viewers. I feel like it's a bit better to make one big video about that. So let's talk about Demonology. So they do get, again, you have 30 points. Now I have 25 since I am level 60. But you do get a lot of choices that you have to make. Do you have the amounts of points to make those choices? That's another problem. I also have difficulties to test Demonology because I feel like with the current setting in solo shuffle with covenant abilities and such, it is very hard to make an opinion about the damage because everything is times 10, and I refuse to use covenant abilities, like for example Necrolord. The Necrolord ability, I don't use it because I feel like it's actually cheating with the system with Dragonflight, because in Dragonflight you will not have the abilities that you should lose come Dragonflight. So let's talk about what you're winning, what you're losing. You do win a choice that you probably wouldn't have to make. Summon Vile Fiend and Soul Strike. So if you want to have that, you will win it because basically you will probably never play with it. It's an extra ability, you can always use that. You could also have Doom with also a improvement to Doom with his Kazakh's Final Curse, which gives you 6% increased damage for each demon pet you have active. So you can put Doom, and then you can basically have the most pets available, and then you probably do the summon Demonic Tyrant to again increase the duration of all the current demons. And then you will have one big blast of Doom. That's also possible. I think it's also a very fun playstyle to have in PvP. I would say more so in RPGs, but yeah, I think it's quite nice. You have also Imgang Boss, which is new because you don't have it in Shadowlands. It's very hard to know if it's very strong or not because I'm not a Demonology player. I want to discuss about the things that you have a new design wise, because I do know that, but I don't know if it's going to be strong or not, because I'm just going to discuss about designs. Again, you have Nether Portal that you probably would never take because it was actually competing with the big demon, I would say. But now you could take Nether Portal. Is it strong? You have the Pit Lord coming out. It could be strong. It could be bad. What you could do is Nether Portal, and whenever the Pit Lord is going out, you do then put a summon demonic tyrant, and you will have probably a lot of damage coming out from your demonic tyrant because it has a lot of HP. But again, do you have the points to actually spend on those abilities? And that's the main point I want to make. I think the Demonology talents are quite contrived because you do not have a lot of choices IMO in PvP. I might be wrong. I think design-wise, maybe they think they are very happy with Demonology at this very moment. Me myself, I'm not a super fan of Demonology Warlock. If it's a video, should you main Demonology Warlock, I would say it's very specialized. You do need to play it to maybe know if you're going to like it. From the views, it could be very fun because again, you were playing with demon bolts and you have procs that could give you instant demon bolts, and then you have Hand of Gul'dans giving you charges of demonic core, and then you have your imps also. Whenever they're disappearing, you get also some stacks from it. Again, a lot of great things, but I feel like it's not as easy to play, let's say, than Affliction, Warlock, or Destruction, because it's not super well designed IMO. That's my opinion. I think people are going to shoot me down, but it is what it is. You could play more of a Felguard build, so you can go for Antaran armaments and go for Infernal Command, which gives you more damage on your Dreadstalkers. And you can have Guillotine. I don't know if it's going to be very useful in PvP, but there is that. You have a lot of legendaries actually coming back, like for example Dread Calling, which gives you the increased damage on Dreadstalkers whenever you're doing Gul'dans. Hand of Gul'dans. You have here Demonic Meteor, which is basically a soft soul conduit, so you can combine those two. And you also have Pact of the Imp Mother, so having it chance on casting Hand of Gul'dan and casting a second time for free. So you have a lot of great things going on. Stolen Power, I think the problem with Stolen Power is you don't have any agency on how you control it. I think it's very annoying that whenever you have 100 applications and you do need to do a Shadow Bolt, that it ruins your damage because you wanted to actually use it on Demon Bolts. So I don't know how they are going to do that, or maybe we need weak auras to actually track it. But it's very, very hard to actually utilize that talent as well in PvP. You have also Fel Covenant, which is a legendary that you could have, basically improving your damage of demon bolts. But I think you do lose the Covenant Necrolord ability, which gives you guaranteed crits. Now you don't have that, so the damage is not as impressive as it was. Now you're going to hit for 10k instead of maybe critting for 20k all the time. So you will probably have to build a lot of crits if you want to utilize the Demon Bolt builds, but that's my opinion. PvP talents, you do gain precognition and you do gain Bonds of Fel, but I feel like you're pretty locked in what you're using. You do need to use Master Summoner. You do need to use Call Fel Hunter because then you would not have a silence. And I think it's too big to pass it out. And you have Fel Obelisk, which gives you a mini Bloodlust. So I think that's pretty set in stone. Am I super excited of Demonology Warlock? Not really. I did make a top 4 video about the specs I didn't like, and it was in the top 4. It doesn't mean that I'm not liking Warlocks though, because I do have 2 great specs, but I think the third spec, which is Demonology, is not really my cup of tea. At least not for now. Okay, let's talk about Destruction Warlock, and that class, that spec, has been changed for the better, in my opinion. Returning talents, returning utilities, returning everything. So let's talk right away. This build is based around the Dimensional Rift, something that is coming back from Legion, which is super nice. I also like it. It does a lot of damage. It generates a bit of soul shards. It's fragments, so you will not have a full soul shard, but if you're spamming it, you can have those charges back, and then you can do chaos bolts again. Also, it does quite a bit of damage, so there is that. And by itself, it does 50% less damage on chaos bolt than whenever you're going to throw a chaos bolt. But I think it's free damage. It's instant. You do get your soul shard fragments out of it, and it's very, very strong to play around. You could also play with Chaos Incarnate, which basically gives you maximum benefit on mastery. So I think that's the play I'm going to do whenever I'm level 70 and I have like the stats laid out of me. I think having full mastery builds could do a lot of damage with Shadowburn and Chaos Bolt. and you could do some big bolts potential with it. So I think I'm very happy to actually test it out whenever we have level 70 Destruction Warlock, whenever expansion is out naturally. So what do you lose? What do you gain? You do gain the option to go for entropy and Shadowburn. You could also go for internal combustion, but I don't really like to apply immolate all the time. So I prefer to go for that. Um, you also have Shadowburn, which gives you increased critical strike whenever you're using Conflag and Shadowburn. You have 50% chance to have a guarantee crit on your next spell, and increase its damage by your critical strike chance. So you can also go for a bit more crit on your stats, a bit more mastery on your stats, and you can combine those two and not only go for haste. Um, you can go for Soulfire, something that you would never take probably in arenas, but I feel like since you have the ability to reduce the cast time of Soulfire, and you also have Roaring Blaze, again increasing the damage of Soulfire, and then you have Conflagration of Chaos, giving you a guaranteed crit if you get the proc with increased damage on your with your critical strike chance. You can do some serious damage with Soulfire. Like again, you have Ruin giving you more damage on Conflag and Shadowburn and Soulfire. So you can do a big build around fire damage, really. So you have Havoc, but you also have Mayhem. I think Mayhem is good for PvE. I think Havoc is still better for PvP. Um, what am I going to say? Improved immolate is also very fun to have a longer immolate dot up, so you don't need to actually reapply all the time. So I do like that. You do get the possibility to go for channel demon fire. I don't know if you're going to have the points for that. That's another discussion, but depends about the build. If it does a lot of damage, then it becomes very interesting. If it does little damage, then it becomes not really interesting. That's purely a damaging ability. If it's strong, you're going to take it. If it's weak, you're going to just ignore it because it doesn't really lead to anything you want out of that tree, right? You can have backlash, which is for me something interesting because I'd always liked it on Wrath of the Lich King. Now you do have it, so whenever you'll get physical attacks and you are trained, you at least get the opportunity to do some damage with Incinerate instant, and you can build for Incinerate build with Burn to Ashes, having 15% times 4, like 60% more damage on your incinerates whenever you're doing a chaos bolt or a rain of fire. Would you do lose rain of fire in PvP? IMO, I'm not taking it because I do prefer the other options. I can understand that it's maybe annoying versus rogue, so you could do a rogue spec versus a rogue spec, so you can actually take rogues out of stealth. But I feel like most of the time you don't get them out of stealth and they still open on you, so why take it, right? It does also cost 3 soul shards, which is more than a chaos ball. We have Scalding Flames. Again, your Immolate will hit like a truck. It does a lot of damage, guys. Do not underestimate Immolate. I think just because of that, you could have also Internal Combustion, so you do a lot of damage on Immolate, the procs. But it really depends on what you're looking for. Grimoire of Sacrifice, very nice. I do like it because it does combine with a lot of talents on your class tree. And it also gives you the possibility to just ignore your pet. You don't have a pet. They can't kill the pet. You still have a silence for you. Of course, versus rogue mage, I do play with a pet, so you can actually silence or interrupt someone whenever you're sapped. But the possibilities are there, right? So you can still work around depending on the comps you're facing. So that's very nice to have in this build of Dragonflight. So we have Ritual of Ruin. So I did go for a build with a Summon Infernal because I do like to have a generation on Soul Shards. And then you have Ritual of Ruin, which is not super interesting if you don't have Master Ritualist. But that's my opinion. Um, really, I think I might change a lot of things. I think I would maybe go for Ashen Remains and maybe Diabolical Embers, so you can actually regen a lot of soul shards. Because this, it's strong, but it's not as strong as current Shadowlands Ritual of Ruin, right? And then you have Manas of Ajakir, which is basically a legendary. Um, I think it's strong. It's less strong than the legendary, but you can also apply it on Shadowburn. And if you do Shadowburn, and if you crit that Shadowburn, you do a lot of damage. So I think that's quite nice to play around. And I play with Dimensional Rift because I did miss it from Legion, and it is a very fun ability. You can also do more of a Summon Infernal build, which is basically going around with the conduits that you had with Shadowlands. You also have the talents that you can have with Reign of Chaos that you had also in Shadowlands, or you can go for the legendary, which is basically giving you faster summon Infernals, and that's quite fast because you do use a lot of soul shards all the time, and it can give you some big summon Infernals every 2 minutes, pretty much. You do get Crashing Chaos, so Summon Infernal reduces the soul shard cost of your next 3 casts of Chaos Bolt by 1. I think by 2, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna check it out. No, your next 6 casts. So you can be very strong with it, right? You can play with Summon Infernals and have some big Chaos Bolts for only 1 shard, and that's very strong. Or even Shadowburns being free because it's only costs 1 shard. So I think it can be very fun to play around that build. I think I'm going to test it. But the good thing you need to hear about Destruction, you do lose Dark Soul, but you do gain a lot of flavorful spells and talents that you didn't have the choice to use, or it was gone in Legion or in BFA or whatever expansion it was gone. So I think it's a very fun design of Destruction Warlocks. What do you gain in PvP talents? You do gain one big talent, which is Precognition. It's something that you will have to take as Destruction Warlock because you do cast a lot of spells, and if people are just interrupted, nothing, you will have like 4 seconds of complete control over the game. If you have precognition up, I think you will have a weak aura for that because it's easy to miss. But if you have that, you can just fear for free. You can do Chaos Bolt for free. You can really control the game just however you want with that PvP talent. And I think it rewards also fake casting, which is a very good thing to have for healers and casters as a whole. You do gain Call Observer. Don't know if it's really worth it to take because you have a lot of great PvP talents as a Destruction Warlock. And all in all, I think Destruction Warlocks are going to have a great time. You have Soul Burn, basically giving you a great health boost with Hellstone, and with Demonic Circle Teleport also giving you more mobility as a Destruction Warlock. You even can go for Burning Rush, although I think it's more of a PvE talent. I think PvP, it does punish you a bit too much. But in general, I think I'm very happy with current iteration. So now, to answer the question about should you play Warlock in Dragonflight for PvP, my answer is yes. If you're playing Affliction Warlock and you love Affliction Warlock, you should main Affliction Warlock. If you love Destruction Warlock currently, that's pretty tough to love. You will adore Destruction Warlocks in Dragonflight because I feel like they are putting the Destruction Warlocks into a whole other level design wise. I feel like it's very fun to play. It just reminds me of Classic. I think it's just fun to have more ability suppress that has more significant damage or utility, right? Should you main Demonology Warlock? It depends if you like Shadowlands Warlock, Demonology Warlock or not. If you do like Demonology Warlocks in Shadowlands, you will like it in Dragonflight because I don't feel like they're changing a lot. But if you don't like Shadowlands Demonology Warlock, I feel like you will not like Demonology Warlock in Dragonflight. That's my opinion because I do not like Demonology Warlock, or at least it's not on the same level as Affliction Warlock and Destruction Warlock. So this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Again, if you have learned something, let me know in the comment section below. What spec are you going to main, or what class are you going to main in Dragonflight? Let me know in the comment section below because I want to know and discuss with you guys. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you, and we will catch each other with the next video, which will be about shamans. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.